All right. Well, good morning, everyone. And we will start our agenda this morning on Thursday, February 4th. Our first item, and I don't know, it's automatic vehicle testing update. Is that from Joe Segali?
That's me and Obi, yes.
Okay, you and Obi's with you. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes, for those who don't know, Mike Obahoski was a member of the House for many years, a speaker, and he's joining us this morning. He's with the Agency of Transportation as we speak. So, Joe, it's all yours, and take it away.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. As usual, I'm just getting my screen fired up.
Okay.
This is Joe Segali. I'm the Director of Policy Planning and Research, and I'm here to give you an update on automated vehicle testing. I have a presentation and I have a short video we want to show you two at the end. We'll see how that works. So I'm going to give you an overview of automated vehicles, just to sort of refresh your memory, and some of you maybe haven't been involved with this yet.
Is that an automatic vehicle in that picture?
Yeah, this is some.
God.
This is a visualization. It's a shuttle. Like this could be used potentially at a ski resort. You can see we have drones floating around there too, just to kind of put it in the Vermont context a little bit. And so we're going to talk about the permitting process, which is a lot of what Obi and I worked on the last year, getting that put into place and getting that adopted, and how we're managing risk associated with testing, and then where we are going forward. There are 5 levels of automation, really 6 if you count level 0, which is conventional car. And as you move up the scale from 1 to 5, the level of human interaction decreases. So with levels 1 and 2, those are generally described as advanced driver assistance technology, things like lane keeping or adaptive cruise control, or even regular cruise control is level 1, which is sort of a form of very rudimentary form of automation if you think about it. But with levels 1 and 2, the human operator is still in control of the vehicle, and the systems on board are really providing, assistance, or they're providing information. But it's clear that the human is responsible and in control. When we get to levels 3, 4, and 5, those are not available on the market yet, and those are the levels that require testing. And so, the Automated Vehicle Testing Act was passed in 2019. It allows testing of levels 3, 4, and 5 vehicles on public roads in Vermont. And I'll give you some of the details of that. But I just want to kind of explain the different levels here. So level 3 has an automated driving system on board. And the automated driving system, when it's engaged, has the ability to carry out all of the so-called dynamic driving tasks, which include steering, accelerating, braking, being able to identify objects and respond to those objects. Basically it can do everything that a human can do. But with level 3, the human is responsible for taking over the vehicle when the system either fails or it gets out of the area where it's designed to operate. So it's called, in order to get into a minimal risk condition, the human is the fallback. So that's level 3. When we get to level 4, the system actually has the ability to put the vehicle in a minimal risk condition. So for example, it can pull itself over to the side of the road if it needs to do that. If it's out driving and the weather's really bad and for some reason its sensors aren't working, it will understand that and be able to pull itself over. Or maybe if there's a slight mechanical failure, it might be able to limp itself to a final repair location. And it's designed to operate in specific places. And for example, maybe just on the interstate or a college campus or a business office park, something like that. Or maybe under certain conditions, like, only in daytime or only in certain kind of weather. So the human might still be operating the vehicle under certain conditions. And then level 5 is completely self-driving vehicles. And that means that the human is not involved at all in running these vehicles. And so, you can think about moving freight. It doesn't just have to be people. These vehicles could even be empty. So they could drop off a passenger and then go park someplace else, and they will actually be empty, or drop off their freight and they might be empty. So Vermont, you need a permit to test levels 3, 4, and 5. on public roads. And this committee, the Senate Transportation Committee, really kind of took the lead on putting that in the DMV miscellaneous bill in 2019, and it went from there. So, what are the benefits? So, this show, these images show, this is again a shuttle, and you can kind of see the Vermont context, and same down here, a shuttle, and this is a health center, and but some of the key benefit, at least from the transportation industry perspective, is safety. Over 90% of crashes are due to human behavior, and ultimately, especially when we get to level 5 or level 4, when the human is not so engaged, we're hoping that'll actually help improve safety significantly. But we have to get there first. Mobility independence is another benefit, meaning so for people that cannot currently drive or maybe can't drive under certain conditions, then they would be able to get in a self-driving vehicle and go where they need to go. There's been studies that suggest it'll reduce household transportation costs if the service is shared. So, it may be that not everybody owns a vehicle, and you subscribe to a service, and the estimates are anywhere from $5,000 to $9,000 per year. It can improve productivity because you can work while you're traveling. It could potentially reduce public transit costs significantly because half the cost is the cost of the driver. There's certainly, employment impacts related to that, and I wouldn't minimize those at all, but it would have a positive impact on the cost of running transit. And same with, reducing parking and related impacts. Again, you could drop off the passenger, you don't have to have parking at the destination, or you could reduce the number of parking spaces, and that could create redevelopment opportunities. So these are the kind of standard litany of potential benefits. So what might a test look like? In the upper left corner is a project that is a test that happened in Providence, Rhode Island, called the Little Roadie. That's a small shuttle service from a developing neighborhood to downtown Providence. And it ran for maybe 10 months until COVID came along, and they suspended it because of that. The top middle is it's a company called Too Simple, and they are running freight for UPS, packages from between in Arizona between Tucson and Phoenix. I think they were doing 20 trips per day, and there is a driver on board, but this is a level 4 vehicle, so the truck is running itself, and they're expanding it now from Phoenix to San Antonio, Texas. So, these vehicles are probably running from like a major hub to a major hub and mostly staying on the interstate. Top right is just, kind of I don't know where this is exactly, but just showing an automated vehicle on a road with a, vulnerable user. Bottom left is a test track that the Minnesota DOT was running with a shuttle in winter conditions. And you can see that guy is modeling a pedestrian and whether or not the shuttle will stop.
He's pretty brave. I wouldn't want that test.
And this bottom center, this might be something that Senator Mazza could use for his store. It's they're delivering groceries. Like, can you see the bag right there? Yeah, just to give you an idea of the scale of this. And this is called Nuro, N-U-R-O. And they got a waiver from the NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So this automated vehicle has no steering wheel, right? And there's nobody inside it. It's a robot, basically. And so it's delivering groceries. And, and you think about, we're going to get out of COVID, but, if this technology was available, it's a great way to deliver food, without, you get rid of the human interaction, which is a little unfortunate, but, it would have been a handy technology to have for sure. And the bottom right is in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Domino's was testing out self-driving vehicles to deliver pizzas. So there's all kinds of applications.
Unbelievable. I can't even imagine that happening. Yes,
if you don't mind, Joe, do you want questions at the end or comments?
No, let's take them as we go. That'd be easier.
Yeah. So this is exciting. I love talking about this stuff. And I guess I have 2 comments so far. One, I'm curious what the posture of VTrans is about the inevitability of self-driving cars. Like, do you accept as an organization that this is going to happen? And if so, what's your timeline? Or are you still skeptical that this is somewhat sci-fi and far-fetched and it's not really going to come our way?
No, we accept that it's going to happen because it is happening. And now we're trying to prepare for it. And This whole testing law that was passed a couple of years ago was part of that to help Vermont to get ready for these vehicles. Benefit of testing is that, we want Vermonters to get used to this technology and to be able to put their hands on it as well, so to build some confidence, but it's also so that we can start to get some experience as a transportation agency and start thinking about how we can get ready for this. So we're engaged with our other state DOTs as well around us in New England and planning for it, and so we're totally engaged.
So then my follow-up comment, Senator Mazza, is just that I'm glad to hear that, and I hope there's enough in the budget to support the necessary training and industry trade talks to make sure VTrans is exposed to as much of this as necessary, because I think this technology is going to revolutionize our economy and society. It's going to do what the car did to the horse and buggy from the articles I'm reading. So I'm excited that we're committing attention to it, and I just hope you have enough resources to stay abreast of the technology as it comes online.
I think it's
So
a long.
far,
I think it's a long way off, though. I would predict it's a long way off. I don't know how would there's a lot of things to resolve, I would suspect. Wow.
Yeah, the forecasts are that at least this decade, maybe 1% to 2% of the vehicles on the road will have some level of automation. Levels 3, 4, and 5, and by 2050, maybe 40 to 60% of the vehicles on the road will have some level of automation. Which is going to be a challenge. It just means we're going to have a mix of all these different technologies out there. So things will get more complicated, not less.
It also appears that the new administration is interested in autonomous vehicles and are going to apply a lot of their capital making sure that they're safe.
Does it rely? And I guess it's probably too soon for these questions, but does it rely a lot on markings on the highway, or does it rely on aerial? I know very little about this, but what will we do if it relies on markings on a highway? Is that a factor right now?
Well, some of the early technology does work with the line striping. That's like a level 2 technology.
Okay.
And there's been a push, like California increased their edge line from 4 inches wide to 6 inches wide, which there's some significant cost implications of doing that. But the standard answer to that is the technology on board has got to be able to work whether you can see the lines or not, right? It's not going to work in Vermont if you can't, if it relies.
No, that would never work in climates that, it's such a fascinating issue. Wow.
Yeah. And think about gravel roads or dirt roads, right? I mean, there's never any lines on dirt roads. And so that's why we want to have testing done in Vermont, is to try to put the vehicles in that environment. So this next slide is maybe kind of boring, but we, so Obi and I worked really hard over the last year putting together the details of the permitting process for testing in Vermont. And so this was adopted in October 2020 by the Traffic Committee. The Traffic Committee is, the Secretary of Transportation, the DMV Commissioner, and the Commissioner of Public Safety. And they're responsible for issuing, approving the permits, the testing permits. And so this provides all the details that an applicant has to provide in the app, when they want to do testing. And we worked with industry on this as well. We had a, we started with a general public information meeting when we had a draft, and we had a couple of the major industry advocacy organizations give us, a fair amount of comments on the details. And we spent time, we met with them, and we worked it out. There's some things they don't really like, but we were trying to balance safety with and transparency to make sure that Vermonters had knew that this was going on and had a opportunity to weigh in when because we're using public roads to do the testing. And I'll go over a little bit more of the details as I move along here. So the permit process, again, the Traffic Committee has the sole authority to issue the permits. The Traffic Committee can approve a permit on all state highways and on Class 1 town highways without any kind of municipal involvement. And the thought of the Class 1 town highways is we wanted to make sure there was continuity from state highways, because as they run through a town and they carry a state number. And so, the agency, V-Trans, myself and OB and staff from DMD and state police would help in the review and approval process. The municipal role, and I'm sure Senator Mazza and Senator Kitchell, and maybe, can't remember Senator Herchlik was on the committee yet, but back then, but there was, the question about what's the municipal role. And so if testing is going to happen on class 2, 3, or 4 town highways, it requires the pre-approval of a municipality. And so that doesn't mean they're issuing a permit. What they're saying is, hey, we are open to testing on our roads. And we got our first town to issue its pre-approval last week. Town of Springfield passed a resolution allowing testing of AVs on their roads. And Obie and I are working with his old town of Bellows Falls, town of Rockingham, to hopefully encourage them to allow testing as well. So municipalities can withdraw their approval at any time. So it means that maintains that local control. And they don't issue permits, only the traffic committee can issue permits. They're not required to make any sort of modifications or the cost of modifications to the highway system as well. So, they are maintaining control over 2, 3, and 4 town highways. The state maintains control over class 1 town highways. And we've been doing a lot of outreach and we're going to continue to do that. And then some key things for the applicant. First of all, that there always has to be a human operator on board, and that person has to be able to take over control. They have to be 21 years or older. They have to pass a background check, which is something we would audit. And their blood alcohol content has to be less than 0.02, which is what school bus drivers, that's the standard for school bus drivers. We require $5 million in liability insurance. The driving system, the automated driving system, of course, has to be able to comply with all laws. Like it has to know where the one-way streets are, it has to be able to stop at a stop sign, that sort of thing. And then it has to be clearly identifiable, just like in the way a driver's ed car, you can see that on the road and you know what it is. That was something industry didn't really care for all that much because they want to make sure their cars can operate and not have people sort of respond to them in odd ways. But I think in these early phases, we just want to make sure the public kind of knows that the vehicles are out there. So in terms of risk management, so there's on the safety side, which is the most important side. This is the big challenge. It's like we want to make this safe transition to automated driving so that we can get the safety benefits in the long term. As I mentioned, there's a human driver is always required. They have to submit a safety and risk management plan, which has all kinds of details on, how the system disengages, and they have to do a daily safety check, and there's lots of details there. There's certain requirements for crashes that are more stringent than just a regular crash. A law enforcement officer can temporarily suspend testing, and then there's a process to terminate the test if there's issues. And it's a maximum duration of 2 years. There's local control, as I mentioned, just described, public involvement and transparency. So the traffic committee has to hold a hearing. We have to give 60 days notice to municipalities. And of course, there's all the pre-work with the municipalities that we're doing. The test vehicle has to be identifiable. There's also testing reports that would have to be submitted to the agency, and those will be available to the public. And then on insurance and illegal exposure, the $5 million liability is one. All other typical insurance is required, of course. And then the applicant must defend the state, municipalities, and employees against third-party claims or suits. And so we thought that was a really important one, particularly for towns, smaller towns that don't have attorneys on staff. And
Senator Mazza?
Yes, guys. Yes, Senator Berkshire.
Thank you. Joe, I was on the committee when we went through all this, and I remember, if I remember correctly, AOT wasn't too happy about the local control. You thought that was going to kind of hinder the testing. I just wondered kind of what the report is like. Are you contacted by autonomous vehicle manufacturers, testers saying, we want to test in Vermont, and then when you tell them we got to get local control, they say, oh, okay, we'll just go to New Hampshire where it's live free or die.
Yeah. Well, New Hampshire doesn't actually have a system in place yet, so we're ahead of the curve with them. So first of all, I got a couple calls while we were working on the legislation, but we haven't gotten any calls yet. And I'll be talking next about what we're doing, try to get some attention to Vermont. But yeah, I mean, it would have been simpler just to have the traffic committee to have the authority to, issue the permits without local approval. I suspect that would also probably have caused a lot of conflict. And so, well, it's a little bit harder. I think it's a good opportunity to work collaboratively with the communities. And I'll say that Springfield and Bellows Falls, they contacted us. We didn't contact them. I mean, I was doing some general outreach, some training around. I think you and I are at some of the same trainings. Yeah, the municipal day trainings. And, so I was just providing general information and they reached out to us, and so I was really encouraged by that, but we got to keep working on it.
Yeah, Joe, do you know why the city councilors in South Burlington haven't reached out to you yet?
I heard they're pretty interested in this. He'll have the first car in South Burlington, I understand.
I'm going to do that. May I ask another question?
Yes, go right ahead. I know this is your subject, so go right ahead.
It's an exciting area. And so I have one comment. I haven't seen the downsides. I saw the benefit slide, which is great, but it's not all roses. As excited as I am for the technology, I am concerned that as this comes online over the next 10, 20 years, it's going to increase our road congestion. I think there's going to be so many more business models that are going to constantly use our roadways. And I think people are going to have longer commutes. It's also going to lead to a lot more sprawl. People are going to be more comfortable living further away from our downtown centers. And I think that's an exposure for Vermont, as attractive as we are. People commute to Boston from the Green Mountains so they can sleep in the car. But again, we're talking somewhat far out. My question now is actually directed or grounded in what we're discussing. Do you have conditions on the permits so that for testing class 5, that there's a maximum top speed or certain roadways where you can test it on? Are there conditions applied to each of the permits that as to the allowable road conditions when they're testing it, or more specifically, the types of roads and top speeds?
Yes, the permit process allows us to put conditions in place, but likely those would be proposed by the testing entity, saying, we have this automated driving system. It's designed to operate, really only on, up to 25 miles an hour, or it's referred to as the operational design domain, the certain characteristics that the system is designed to operate under. So that all gets, put into the permit. It's all part of the testing plan, and that's all part of the vetting process. And yes, we can specify which roads could be included, which roads couldn't be included, and really anything. We kind of left it open for the traffic committee to put whatever conditions they feel are probably necessary on a permit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just going forward, we're holding this, we're calling it the Vermont AV Exchange this on Monday, coming up February 8th from 1 to 2:30. And I have a little video I'm going to show you that I think what we're really doing is we're bringing together a panel of local officials, so including the folks from Bellows Falls and Springfield, as well as Charlie Baker from Chittenden County. We're hoping to get some interest up in Chittenden County, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody on that panel. And then we also have a panel of industry representatives from a company called May Mobility, who did that little roadie I showed you up there. Too Simple, who have the commercial vehicles, and there's one more I can't remember. And so our goal is we want to hear from what the locals have to say. We want to hear what industry has to say, and we're just trying to build some excitement around AV testing. And we're targeting local officials, but we also we have a consultant helping us out. He's reaching out to the industry, and we're trying to get people from around the country to come and participate in this. We're assisting Bellows Falls and Rockingham with their testing approval. Obi and I are meeting with them and helping them out with that. We're going to continue to do municipal outreach, and I'd love to come to South Burlington if you're interested in hearing about this, and maybe be one of the first towns in Chittenden County that would allow approved testing. We are working with, maybe Colchester.
No, not Colchester right now. Okay. All right.
I don't know. We could try out one of those little robots for your store. I think it'd be great.
Thank God I'll be able to drive my Corvettes for the next, my lifetime. What fun is it to have a car if you can't drive it? Go ahead.
We're working with the other New England DOTs on looking at what the cross-state legal and regulatory issues are, so that when we take the next step, which is to actually allow the deployment of these and writing the legislation for that, we have the right kind of language that's consistent across the states. And this, New England, it's so important because we're so close to each other. And then I'm thinking we may want to actually write legislation around allowing automated vehicle technology to be deployed. So right now you can test it, but it can't really be deployed yet in Vermont. And other states have done that. They've kind of done the two things at the same time. And I think it would be good to have that discussion here. So perhaps we'll do that next year. So the last thing I want to do is I'm going to try to show you this video, and hopefully you can see this. You see a black screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, and hopefully you hear it okay.
Oh no, we're going to test them on the steps of the State House?
I'm not hearing the audio. When you shared your screen, did you flick the little switch that says share computer audio? If you stop sharing and then when you reshare your screen, there's this little button at the bottom that you have to click to say share computer audio to.
Okay, thank you. Let me.
Approved in 2019, the Vermont Automated Vehicle Testing Act allows for the testing of automated vehicles on public roads in Vermont. With the state's 4 seasons, historic covered and floating bridges, scarcity of road markings, and the occasional blizzard, Vermont's mix of state and municipal roadways provides a unique and challenging testing environment in a rugged and rural terrain. With a robust and active tourism industry, Vermont is filled with potential test use cases, like autonomously chauffeured food and craft beer tours, scenic leaf peeping, and even using AVs to transport skiers from lodging and remote park-and rides to the slopes. Automated vehicles would be a huge boon in supplying mobility to folks in rural and remote areas, where public transportation can be all too hard to come by. In addition to reducing fatal crashes and increasing vehicle and occupant safety, automated vehicles could also have a positive impact on healthcare, helping the impaired, disabled, aged, and handicapped reach important appointments on time, while saving the current system millions of dollars. AV testing requires a huge level of trust between the user and the road owner. Thankfully, Vermont is a special place, where the number of Vermonters is small enough to care. The Vermont Way provides for cooperation, collaboration, and communication, all elements which build trust, breed understanding, and help in educating the public. If you decide to test in Vermont, you'll find yourself treated not as some nameless entity, but as a partner in pursuit of automated vehicle operational safety. We believe it is essential that all Vermonters have access to this technology and its potential safety and economic value. We want to be partners in ensuring that safety and success.
Automated vehicles in Vermont will improve safety for Vermonters and result in fewer deaths on our roads.
Automated vehicles in Vermont will support redevelopment and infill of downtowns by reducing needed parking.
Automated vehicles will provide independence and access to jobs, goods, and services who cannot drive.
Automated vehicles in Vermont will mean mobility for our senior citizens.
Automated vehicles in Vermont will make Vermont attractive to new businesses and residents, and supports the modernization of mobility for Vermonters and our visitors.
With the cooperative attitudes of the Vermont Department of Motor Vehicles and the Agency of Transportation, we aim to be a leader in the testing of automated vehicles in small towns, rural areas, challenging weather, and terrain. We trust your experience will be sweet.
So that's our sales pitch.
May I make one final comment on this, Senator Mazza?
All right ahead.
So this is great. I love seeing this video, and it's just it gives me a lot of confidence that we're doing all the right things on this important topic. The last thing that I said on the campaign trail that I want to make sure that you know, so that it's part of this lens in my discussions and these topics, is we have increasingly smart cars. We need to have increasingly smart roads, and that's where I'm looking to the things that we're doing and how we build our road infrastructure so that it's adaptive, intelligent, with smarter Bluetooth light signals, tracking traffic in real time. Capturing that and connected through all the different roadways and adaptive speed limits. So this is exciting, and I'd love to hear more about what Secretary Flynn talked about with, I forget the term ITS, but intelligent transportation systems, and what we're doing in our roadways to be able to communicate in real time via internet connections to these smart cars, which ways they should go and what they should look out for in real time.
You know, we're doing a pilot project on Shelburne Road now where we're putting equipment in the traffic signal controllers that allows us to connect with vehicles. And, you know, it might be worthwhile to get a presentation on that just so you can understand what that is and see, you know, one of our projects. And I think we got a grant for that, like $1 million grant to actually do that pilot project.
Thanks again.
I have a question.
Sure, Senator Kitchell.
The market for that video, Senator Mazza, you are remarkably absent. Must be a fairly new video because it's got the new chair.
No, I can tell you exactly what happened. They asked me, and I said we have not had a good discussion in the committee. And before I go ahead with any kind of a comment, I want to have the committee discuss it thoroughly.
Oh, well, thank you for your deference to the committee.
That's right. Committee process. I said we'll be discussing a lot of it this year because we started discussing it years ago or a few years ago.
Okay.
But for me to take a statement, make a statement at this point, all I can say is it's a committee project, and I'd be glad to do whatever the committee wants to do.
Oh, well, I think that a lot of that was done in the miscellaneous DMV bill, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But the market for the video would be the companies that are developing these
Yes.
vehicles. Is that, Joe, what, in other words, you put together this video, who's the market for it? It's obviously not us.
It's
Or
the
maybe it
automobile
is.
people. Yeah.
It's the industry, but it's also municipalities. So we need to get them on board too.
Okay.
I just think we have a lot of area to cover. Not that I want to continue the discussion, but it's a major project, and I think it's got a bright future. But there's so many questions that have to be answered, and that's part of our job, is to get these questions answered. And so when we move forward, we'll do it in a safe manner. And it's a nationwide issue. It's not just Vermont issue, I'm sure.
Right.
We're discussing it all over, and I hear a lot about the trucking industry that the driver's still there, but the truck is going from point A to point B. And but it's such a big issue that there's a lot to get a hold of.
I completely agree, Senator Mazza.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not against it. It's just that it's such an interesting subject that it's going to wow. So many, and I'm glad that, like I said, Senator Chittenden, I'm glad you're very excited about it, and you'll have some good questions, and that's what we want. And it's going to start somewhere, and there's nothing wrong with that. Northeast Kingdom will have it when they get roads, but they don't have roads yet.
I'm thinking your new mid-engine Corvette could probably drive itself to you.
If we can get some roads up in Northeast Kingdom, then we can give them some cars.
Well, just send a little money up here. We'll take right care of that.
Well, I would like to point out, we do have the interstate on the eastern side of the state,
Right.
from so all the way to Canada. So we actually, I don't know who made that decision many years ago, but it certainly is quite an artery for us to have all along the Connecticut River.
Yeah.
It certainly has expanded development in an area that never would have been expanded at all.
No, and actually we know that there are companies that will locate in northern Vermont because of the interstate. And northern New Hampshire has no interstate above Littleton. It crosses over into St. Johnsbury. So we connect directly to Boston. So it is a real resource, obviously, to access our ski areas and also to attract business from Canada. Also, we've got the rail connection too, which is good.
And we have an airport now in Newport that can handle medium-sized jets.
Oh,
And,
Russ, pretty soon Chittenden County is going to say all the piggy wigs are over in the Northeast Kingdom.
That's right. That's where all the money's going. That's where
well,
all
they're
the
over.
money's right.
They're all over here on the weekends, so
Yeah,
I mean, we do appreciate them leaving a little bit of money for us. But now, if we can just get a little broadband up there, watch out, Chittenden County. Here we come.
Well, you got telephones now, so come on. You don't want to know.
Well, last week we were using smoke signals, but yeah, we do have telephone.
Now, just a question for Joe and Mike. What is expected of our committee this year on this subject? Is this going to be a debate we're going to have more of? Is it going to be something we have to make decisions of? Is it something that it's an ongoing discussion with you folks at AOT? Or what role do we play, as Senator Chittenden asked earlier,
Right.
in discussion this year?
So there's no decisions that you need to make this year. There won't be any legislation this year.
Okay.
And I feel we have the resources we need right now in our current budget. So, we're okay there. Next year, as I mentioned, I think we should really move forward with some kind of legislation that allows for deployment, and it's done in a way that has enough sort of flexibility in it that allows for, the technology is going to change and all of that. Because I think we want to make sure Vermont's on par with other states. Like I said, New Hampshire, they are working on, they passed legislation that established a commission to work on developing testing and as well as the language. And, I'd like to, and so they're just moving along kind of slowly. But once they get through all that, I think I want to make sure we're on par with New Hampshire and other states, and Connecticut as well. They just have legislation this year to allow for the deployment of automated vehicles. And by deployment, I mean use by the general public, just to be kind of clear about that. And so that, if you're open to that, we would start working on that and have something for you next year to react to.
Well, let's leave it like this. If you think there's anything we should be aware of this session, feel free to contact Liz and set it up. If you've got any updates or something new and exciting, or if Senator Chittenden wants questions answered from you, he can get a hold of you directly, or Senator, anybody on the committee. But I just want to keep the discussion open. If I know it's going to be ongoing, like I said, for a long time.
Yeah.
Not going to be something resolved in one session, but
right.
That's where we'll leave it at that point. Any other questions at this point from Joe or Mike?
I'm really glad that it's on our radar, and I'm not looking for anything more. It looks like we're doing everything we need to do to be aware of this technology. And thanks for the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's support too.
If you get a car in this area, be sure to call Senator Chittenden and bring it to South Burlington. He wants to be experimental with the first one. So,
well, I would say for those of us, the three of us who are on here, we really wanted to make sure we were positioning Vermont as a good place to test out these vehicles because of all the reasons that were outlined in the video. And so that's why we were put the language that we did. We spent quite a bit of time in discussing that whole relationship between state and local, and but it was with a goal, anticipating the future and trying to put a framework in place for that to happen, and for Vermont to be one of the states that would be viewed as attractive for this testing and the unique road conditions that we have here.
Yep, that's correct, Jane. That's exactly right. There's we're in a little different climate here, and
yeah.
So
yeah, we are.
Yeah, a little different than some states, and
well, the other thing is our climate's even in regions of the state as well. So there's great variability.
We get sunshine in Chittenden County every day. That's what we get. The economic engine has it all. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
we take your money gladly.
Anything else we have this morning on this subject?
I don't know if Obi had anything he wanted to add.
Yes, Obi, anything you want to add to this? Go right ahead.
I think following up on Senator Kitchell, I spent a good part of my life making laws and sitting in a seat and wearing the shoes that you wear now. being on the executive branch and being handed a piece of legislation and bringing that to the point that we have, I have to assure you, and you know this anyways, but I assure you that the executive branch of Vermont state government really pays attention to what the legislature says and tries to, in the best of its judgment and ability, put what you say in statute into practice. And having seen that work a couple of times so far, I think we are very lucky to have the government that we have and that it operates to serve the people of the state of Vermont. They all just shut up now.
Are there any other committees that are working on any of these issues, or just primarily the transportation committees
It's just the transportation committee.
at this time? Okay. I'm sure it's going to have a impact on natural resources, and everything else, but that's all right. Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for good overview. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Do you want me to get the next witnesses? They're scheduled for 10.
Are they available now, or?
I can find out right now.
Okay, just let us, if they're not,
Okay.
we'll take a break, but
Be right back.
Jane, did you feed the cat yet?
I did.
all
I
right.
did.
Make sure. Yeah.
Well, my day started at 7 with Mary Hooper, and then I've had phone calls. But I do have a reprieve, apparently Salve Regina, which is in Newport, Rhode Island. They're going to remote learning. It must be because of the, I don't know what's going to happen at UVM, so they're taking a 2-week break. So I'm going to have a 2-week break on my foster care duties, but
Ooh, wow.
I expect that they're having trouble with the number of cases that are being identified. I know Norwich obviously was one here in Vermont. Andy, you went down to that. I don't know, Senator Chittenden, if I guess things are going pretty well at UVM right now. Or maybe he's no, there you are.
Sorry, I had to run and tend to the kids. They're home today.
Oh, do you have birds in the background?
I have 2 cockatiels, 2 lovebirds. We have chickens. We have guineas. We've got, I'm not supposed to have these. They're roosters. I think they are. The kids tell me they're chickens, but I'm not supposed to have them in South Burlington. So I think they got to go.
Are you under the farm program where you get tax relief on your land or something? Or that's it's,
No, just got 3 barns and there's a chicken coop. So.
Well, I'm glad to know I wasn't hallucinating when I was hearing all the background.
If you get a cow, you get some more benefits. You get something else if you get a cow.
Looking at sheep, but
committee, we just got an email from Becca relative to action. So you might, if you haven't seen it, take a look.
Thank you.
I'm still waiting to hear from DMV.
Well, why don't we take a 10-minute break right now, and that way we'll be prepared when we come back. Okay.
Okay, I'm taking you off YouTube right now.
Yep.
10 minutes. So 10 o'clock or
Yeah,
5
10
of 10?
Let's do
10 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay, we'll see.